All right, hey, Tyler Watson here, and today I am going to attempt to take all the different techniques out there, which I've been through at least over 400 and something different processes and techniques to change my mindset and improve my results, and help organize them into 3 or 4 categories and help you decide which is the best to use. There are so many processes out there. So before we talk about all the different type of processes and compare them, and come out with which one I think is the winner, then today what we're first got to do is talk about why. Like, why do people use breakthrough processes, which ones to use, and I'm going to categorize them in certain areas so that you can know if you have a certain issue you're working on, which thing to go to, and you don't have to feel so lost. Cool? All right, well, let's dive in. For those of you who don't know me, I'm just going to give a quick background. Hopefully you've seen some other videos of things that I've done. I'm Tyler Watson. I've been doing breakthrough processes in transformational work for the past 7 years. And even before the time when I started doing it as a business, I started in the realm of transformation since I was 2 years old. My dad is what's called a clinical kinesiologist, and my stepmom is a naturopath. So after all the different processes and things that I went through, I wanted to know, are there certain techniques that work better for some things? Or like, when do you use certain processes to attain certain results? And if you're stuck, how do you get unstuck? And is there a better technique or process to use? So after investing almost $450,000 over the past 6-7 years in my personal development and going through hundreds of different processes and techniques, all of which are pretty cool. Well, most all of which are pretty cool. Some of them were a little iffy, but most of them super cool. Then I want to just share my knowledge so that you can not have to spend the next 8 years or more trying to figure out what you need to do to take your life to the next level. So before we begin diving into all the different types of processes, we need to talk about why use tools and techniques and how to use whatever technique you're going to do to where it works for you instead of against you. Cool? All right. So to understand that, we have to understand 2 things. Number one, that everything is energy. What does that mean? It means that everything is made out of matter. It has some sort of material that when you break it down enough, we call it energy. In as less complicated a way as possible, that's what it is. I'm made out of energy. My heart's made out of energy. This thing's made out of energy. This marker's made out of energy. Everything that we have in life, eventually, when you break it down into molecules and down into electrons and protons and that down to whatever there is and quarks and all that stuff, eventually it gets down to stuff, energy. Now, the key to knowing that is that if everything really is energy, the next question is, does energy do things? Can they affect me? And with my thoughts and intentions, can I affect other stuff with my energy or thoughts and emotions or whatever? And the answer to that is yes. If you know, I'm not going to dive into all the reasons why, but the short answer is yes, everything is made out of energy. And yes, we can, if we choose to, influence other things, or we could choose other things to influence us. Knowing that is really important. So energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but it can be transferred. So if I have some sort of thing in my life that I don't want, a symptom of some sort, whether it's health, finances, or relationships, if I want something to change and it's not, then I know some part of me can influence that outcome. And that's why we use tools and processes to try to do that. The problem with people who do a lot of breakthrough work, techniques, and tools is many people actually become addicted to the process without seeing tangible results. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, if I am struggling somewhere and I want to, let's say I want to make more money. So I break through a limiting belief. I do a breakthrough process and I burst through this limiting belief. It actually does create an endorphin release that makes me feel happy. Sometimes I will get so addicted to that happy rush that I lose sight of the whole purpose of processing anyway. So I don't see tangible results. Now I'm just broke and happy about it. So that's a problem. The whole point to all breakthrough processes you must get is process with purpose. Process with purpose. So all these techniques I'm going to share with you, remember, process with purpose, that is critical to get your results. It must be focused on some sort of tangible thing that you want, whether it is money or whether it is a relationship or how you react to that relationship or your health. Those are all things you can measure. Now you might be thinking, well, what if it's like a symptom of depression or whatever? Well, it's still measurable. It's a little different because it's not as tangible. It's an emotion, but yet you can still measure it and you still want to process with purpose. Process with purpose. Just drill that thing because that's going to be so important as you do these techniques. Don't let the tool define you. It is you ultimately that is making the choice, the decision. All the techniques help you come to a choice, a decision to make a change, to put in enough energy to change something. So that is the key. The basis of all breakthrough methods, of all removal techniques, of all alignment processes is it should, in the ultimate scheme of things, help you come to clarity to make a choice so that things can work better than they're working now. That's it. So if you do get tied to a tool, then that would be a problem because you're not at choice or at cause enough to go and create something else in your life. So don't become addicted to the processes or tools. Don't become a slave to those. You are the master of the tools. The tools only help you gain clarity and make a decision without all the reactions that are going on. Cool? All right. So with that, with these techniques, we've literally seen people over the past several years eliminate tumors to glycomas to back pain, shoulder pain, to diseases, you name it, all sorts of health problems, to recovering from cardiac arrests, to shifting crazy things that are incurable, right? To manifesting $60,000 in a week, to doubling income within less than 30 days, to finding their spouse, to being able to have a better relationship with their spouse, to being able to function where their kids don't drive them nuts, to being able to just enjoy life. So no matter what it is that you want, there's always a step to getting it, whether you're attracting it, whether you're doing it. It all comes down to you. The tools are simply assets to help you get those things quicker. Cool? All right. Process with purpose. Now that you know that, let's move on to the different categories of processes and the types that you can use. So for this, I took some notes so I thought about all the different processes, over 300, I think I lost count. I'm over 400 different processes and techniques that I've been through and studied. And some of them work better than others. Some of them are super great. Some of them only work after you've done other processes because you're at a different way of thinking and different way of feeling. So there's beginner processes, there's intermediate, and there's advanced. And there's removal processes. One's focused on getting rid of causes, like getting rid of taking out the trash and removing all the pain, getting to the pain of the pain of the pain and removing it, right? So that's one segment, is removal processes. The other one, so that's elimination or removal techniques. The other type of techniques that you can go through are breakthrough, repetition, or adding techniques. So these are things that, you see like firewalking or even affirmations or education. Those are actually processes to help get new perspectives. So anything you're adding in. So we have the takeaway or removal techniques. We have the adding in processes and techniques, whether it's through repetition or intensity. Those are the key things. With enough repetition and intensity, you can change anything. That's what a lot of people say, which is true. So those are two of the main processes. And then there's the next one, which is called like reprogramming, reframing, or frequency-based techniques. So I'm going to sum all those up. So those are the three main categories of breakthrough processes, techniques to help you change your life. So we got the removal, adding in techniques, and the reframing or frequency-based techniques. Cool? Let's dive into each of these so that you can see when to use them, when not to use them, and which one I feel like are the best overall for people to use. All right. Elimination or removal techniques. So these are processes that are focused on getting to the root causes, finding the key thing that has happened to you, and releasing it. To understand all of like why these even matter, let's take a step back and understand how some of these processes work. So let's say I want something in my life, and going back to the law that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but it can be transferred. Theoretically, if I'm not attaining a result in my life, it is because the frequency or pattern of energy of the thing I want is not within me. So if I want to make more money and I'm not attaining it, obviously some part of me is resisting going to do it, or it's taking a long time, right? Why would that be? Oh, because some part of my energy is not in frequency with that energy. What if I'm broke and I'm depressed? Well, the reason I would be that way is because some part of me is on the frequency of depression, of things aren't working. So that is what I am in tune to. Now, the theory behind this is that if whatever result I have, it's due to my thoughts and emotions, and that those lead to actions and those leads to results, right? That's kind of some of the past thinking, which does work. And there's a lot of validity to that. How I think and how I feel will dictate what I do, and what I do gets the results. Now, law of attraction stuff, if you think it enough and you believe it enough, then weird, crazy, cool miracles happen. And they're like, holy cow, I manifested this out of nowhere and I didn't do anything. So there's, these, you got to do a lot to receive a result. And then there's, you got to be a lot to receive a result, and everything in between. So all those are valid philosophies. And these techniques will help you do more, be more, so that you can have more in your life. Cool. And as you're going through this, realize that if there's something that isn't changing in your life, it's due to some part of you has experienced a past pain, and that pain has caused an energy, so to say, like an emotion or a thought, to be trapped inside of us. And then when we try to go get the thing we want, that trapped emotion either resists it because it's not on the same frequency, or it holds on to the things we don't want, which is pain and all the nasty feelings and emotions. So then we keep attracting the negative things. So the key to elimination techniques is get to the cause of what caused the pain, release it, remove it, get rid of it. And then you're free to go get what you want, right? I did a lot on that years ago. That was my main focus, was helping people just find the root cause to release it. And here's some of the techniques, and here's why they work, and which ones might be beneficial and when to use them. Okay. So elimination or removal techniques, really, really easy one that you can use. And it's mainly used as a removal, but like, again, some of these techniques can be put into different categories. So I'm doing my best to sum them up into one category. EFT, emotional freedom technique. Great technique. It's a tapping process. So how you use it is basically you find the pain of whatever is causing you. Let's say I want to get into a relationship and I have this fear or anxiety around a relationship. And well, actually, let's take one that I've used. So snakes. I used to be terrified of snakes. I was bit when I was 2 years old, and I was terrified. I hated snakes. I wanted to kill them all the time. And I was just like, went extreme and hated snakes. I was bit by a copperhead and almost died. So I had a pain that occurred, and now it's causing this irrational fear some might say it's rational, but to me, it was not rational, because even if I would just think about a snake, it would cause me anxiety. It would cause me to want to go fight the thing and kill it. So I thought, well, this isn't serving me. It's taking up my energy. It's taking up my emotional capacity. It's making me worn out and tired when things happen around me. So back in the day, I use this technique. And the key with elimination techniques is many times you have to get to the root cause of the root cause. Now, I'm going to share with you some that you don't have to, but this is all focused on getting to the thing, releasing or removing it. Okay. With the tapping, EFT, emotional freedom technique, biohacking, whatever you want to call it, you tap in the spot and say, you can tap here or here, and there's 100 variations to it. This is how I did it for years. And you say, even though I was bit by a snake. So you create your story that occurred. What happened? Even though I was bit by a snake when I was 2, and I'm terrified and I don't want to be around snakes and they scare me to death, I deeply and completely love and accept myself and forgive myself and the snakes and the snake that bit me. So you frame it while tapping on the starting point, and then you tap some key points. So it's here on the sides of the eye, either one, underneath either one. You can do either one, here, on the chest, and under either arm. Now you can add other points. There's like different points that you can add, but those are the key ones that if you do it, it'll remove 95% of this stuff. So how you got to do it is you state that, you set it up, and even though I have this bad thing happen and I feel this negative way, I accept myself and forgive the thing that happened. And what that does is, as I'm going into this state of acknowledgement, I'm also going into the frequency of acceptance and forgiveness, which are powerful frequencies that can counter the fears and the negativities that drive us into the insane things that we do, like not wanting to be around snakes, right? Or like freaking out when I see one. And so doing that a couple times, you can say, even though I got bit and now I don't want to look at snakes, it terrifies me. The more specific with the words, the better. I deeply and completely love and accept myself and forgive myself completely. Then as you tap the points, you're going to state any of the negatives regarding that. So it might be something like, I hate snakes. I don't want to be around snakes. I got bit and it really hurt me. I'm terrified it'll bite me again. I don't want to be around snakes. It'll bite me again. I don't want to be around the snakes. The more real I get, and now I would do that 5, 10, 15 different times on different phrases, all connected to being bit by a snake. And the core I'm looking for is, eventually I would first start off rating it, like 0 being no resistance. I could go look at a snake and no fear. 10 being don't even talk to me about a snake because I'm going to freak out. So let's say I'm at a 10. By doing this, it'll go down and it'll go down and it'll go down. And what I'm doing is I'm acknowledging the pain. I'm acknowledging some of the triggering things that are keeping me stuck. And tapping helps release that response so that it goes away and it's not going to be trapped inside of me anymore. So that pain that was locked there causes the irrational thinking, the cycles to repeat, can be released. And then I can look at the thing and I can say, okay, I no longer am afraid of snakes. So these techniques work. EFT and tapping is amazing. The problem I see with it is if you're not specific, it can be very difficult to get help. So with that, the more certified somebody is, the more practice they've had, the better it is to work with somebody. So if you've had somebody who has years and years of experience and they're really good, those are probably the ones that are going to have the best results because they've worked with so many things. They know how to pinpoint what's really going on. Versus a beginner, the problem that happens is you're like, hey, I don't really know how to articulate this because it's been a fear so long. It's so generalized, and generalizations occur to avoid transformation. So anytime you generalize something, it's avoiding you're not actually going to get a result. So if I generalize of like this, I'm just scared. We generalize because the more specific we get, the more emotions will arise that we don't like. So we generalize to protect ourselves. So the more specificity counters generalization. So the philosophy with Breakthrough techniques not breakthrough, but removal techniques are getting very specific and getting not generalized so that you get to the thing and it has no more effect on you. Cool. So EFT, that's one of them. A really great technique. It's awesome to use if you have something that you're like, oh, I got all this junk and I want to release, get rid of. Another great one is called the emotion code or body code. And all of these you can go research. I'll have some links if you want to go look at different people's stuff. But they have good books on all this. There's so many resources. If you have other questions, drop them in the YouTube, the comment here, or wherever you're watching this. And I'll do my best to give you more resources if you want to further research this and go study it yourself. Another good releasing technique is called body code or emotion code. And the whole philosophy behind this one is that inside of our body, we store trapped emotions, trapped things. So things are trapped that are not ideal. So we're going through life, a bad thing happens to us, and now that energy gets trapped inside of us so that if that same pattern happens again, it gets re-stimulated, causes us to fall into the same cycles. And it can be very devastating and hard to change. So the cool philosophy out of this is you can take any type of magnet. So he makes his own, the different emotion code stuff, or you can just take any magnet, or some people just use their fingers, even the back of their fingernails and your intention. But if you don't have that intention, then use a physical thing to help you with that intention to believe that this works. And the philosophy is that as you acknowledge the trap thing using muscle testing and checking where the stuff is trapped, then you release it by running a magnet, and you can do it 3 times on most things. And what it does is it basically scrambles that frequency inside of you and releases it. You can also run down the back and do the same. So awesome process. Now, the key with this is if you don't know how to muscle test. So let me give you an example of using this. So let's say I want to make $10,000 in a month, and I'm struggling, and I'm like, man, it's been really tough. I can't make 10,000. I've tried. So I could ask, and using the system he set up, you could either use the emotion code where you go into different columns and check what emotions are trapped and where. So he has where. So you can just say, awesome. So you would muscle test. If you don't know how to muscle test, this can be a little bit harder to do. But if you do know how to muscle test, then muscle testing is basically measuring your intuition, measuring your body's response to other things around you. So when I state a truth or something that is real to me, it should be strong. When I state something that is false or something that is not real to me, it'll go weak. Okay. So let's say I'm muscle testing and I'm like, okay, is this in column A? Or I would start like, hey, regarding me making $10,000 in a month, let's say that was the thing I was struggling with. And is there a trapped emotion? Yes. Okay. So then I'm going to say, is it in column A? No. Is it in column B? B. Is it in row? And I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And I can say, is it an odd? Is it an even? Odd. Okay. Is it 1? Is it 3? Is it 5? It's 5. So then I would look here and I would go through and I would check. So it would be column A, row 5, I think is what I said. And then I'd go down and look through and say, okay, these words. And I'd say, is it conflict? Is it creative insecurity? Creative insecurity. So then you would just acknowledge creative insecurity, and acknowledging it while running the magnet 3 times will release the creative insecurity that's trapped inside whatever place it is. Like this one, he says that it mainly is in kidneys or bladder, right? So the cool thing about this is he has a whole map where you can go through and tons of things to check to say, okay, did I release that thing? Is there something else that's still trapped? What caused that trap thing? And is there another thing that trapped that? Why did that get trapped? So you're constantly chasing all the trapped things till you get to the cause of it and release it, right? Very effective, works great. And the problem with the body code or emotion code is you do need to know muscle testing. It's a little harder to do intuitively, and it's all focused on releasing or removal. So that could be a positive thing, could be a negative thing, depending on your approach. Okay, so that's a little bit on emotion code. Some other elimination or removal techniques. There's a lot of different processes that help you, like you visualize the thing and you surround it and just release it with whatever it doesn't want, right? So that's another removal technique. Another, there's other processes on removal where you just think it and intend it and vision it to explode, and then it explodes and then it's gone, and then you step into your own self without that thing and embrace your highest version of you. So there's a lot of variations, but to sum it all up, elimination and removal techniques, their focus is on finding root causes and removing. The downside is it can be slower. It also requires you to get to the specific thing. And if you don't, you might not see a result. So there's another process. I spent through a year going through and finding all the core issues, the decisions that I made, trying to figure out all of the core removal things. And then I'd acknowledge what decision I made. And then by acknowledgement, it would release the trapped stuff that was inside of me. And it works, but it took forever. And sometimes a lot of these techniques take a long time because it does have to be very thorough. And if you miss one thing, you don't get a result. So you got to get all of it to get a result. So that's my thoughts on elimination and removal techniques. They're great. Some of them use muscle testing. Some of them use a guided person. Some of you use visualizations, and some of them are just more of you're tapping and trying to get through the core issues. Hopefully that helps on elimination and removal techniques. So they're great for removing things. In my opinion, it is not the most effective way to change, but it's better than not changing at all. I'd rather you do the elimination and removal techniques than nothing, because it does work. I used them for years. They're phenomenal, but I think that there are faster, more efficient ways. Cool. All right, let's move to the second set of techniques. The second set of techniques are breakthrough, repetition, or adding techniques. This could be even so much as like a new perspective. You read something and you could have a transformation. Any type of awareness, changing your perspectives, or breakthrough or repetition. So some of these could be like, let's just start with some of the basics. Vision boards. That is mainly used, and you can use and mix all these, but vision boards are mainly used as a repetition breakthrough process. So if I look at the thing enough and I have my goal and I look at it and I look at it and I look at it and I'm like looking all the time and I'm like, okay, through repetition and passion, and I look at it and I think it and I imagine it and I try to get it up as much as I can. Through enough repetition and passion, you can change anything. So it's just practicing, and sometimes like fake it till you make it type of thing. And it's basically reprogram, convincing yourself to believe something that wasn't there before. So if your limiting thoughts based on the pains are creating this negative feeling inside, through repetition, if I look at the vision board enough and really get that in focus, then I'll receive inspiration to go act on something and then go get the result, right? So that's some of the philosophy there. Now, some of the other pieces that happen in like some other techniques, affirmations. Affirmations are a more breakthrough or repetition process. So if I affirm a lot and I'm like, okay, I have the love of my life. I love my life. I find the partner who I love, and she's amazing, and she's so pretty and beautiful and knows how to cook and plays the piano and does all these things, right? And I have a wonderful woman who I manifested and found and using various techniques. But let's say you just wanted to really drill it and you wrote out who you wanted and you spoke it out all the time, just repeated it until it felt so real inside that you started to act differently. You showed up differently. You became someone different to attract that very person. And in doing that, you'll find that it changes your thoughts, changes your words, and it changes your actions, which then changes your results and allows you to attract the person that you want. So breakthrough and repetition processes are really great. So that's one. You have You could do vision boards. You could do affirmations. You could do like fire walking or glass walking or arrow breaking or board breaking. All those are really great. I've done them all. And what it is you sum up this thing that you feel like you're stuck through. So these are some of the more intense breakthrough processes where I feel like something's hard or a trust fall or jumping off of something. And these are the reason these work is you think of something really hard and it builds up that anxiety. It recreates that hardness. Then you go do something that you know is logically hard. That's really hard. And by accomplishing it, at the end of that accomplishment, going through it, and at the end, it gives you a rush of adrenaline. And it also teaches you, I can do hard things and I don't have to be stuck with this thing that's seemingly hard. So it's a reframing. It helps you break through a lot of passion. So this is more intensity work where it's, if I put in enough intensity in something, it's going to help shift how I feel and think about it. So I will do something differently and have the result I want. So they work. You can go walk on glass and fire and you sum up all this negative thing of like, oh, this thing that I don't feel like I can do. Like one back in the day was, I think I was trying to make $20,000 a month consistently. And I was like, okay, felt hard. I was like, I've made 10, but now I want to make 20. So I was like, I can't make $20,000 a month. It's too hard. Things fall apart. And I had all these limiting thoughts, right? And I just felt it. And then I walk on fire. And you think it's going to be hard. And it's this thought. And your like mind goes into this protective mode. This fight, flight response kicks on to protect you. And as I'm walking on the fire and I'm like, I can do this. I can do this. What happens is that new pain stimulates what you think is painful. And then you finish and you're like, I'm alive. I did this. Boom. And you feel more confident. You're more motivated. The thing that felt so hard doesn't feel so hard because it changed some of your perspective on it. So it's a perspective shift by going through something difficult to say, what I really thought was hard isn't actually hard anymore. I can accomplish it without it being hard. Also, if you read books or watch people do difficult things, it creates new thought patterns in your brain to say, hey, I really thought it was hard for me to go make money, or I really thought it was hard or impossible for me to change this symptom in my life, but somebody else did it. New perspective. It changes your perspective, and that helps you break through and release as well, through repetition, through passion, through input. Okay. So one's on output, the releasing. This is on input. There are thousands of processes in any of these two categories. Now, other breakthrough repetition processes, there's so many more, but basically these are all things that you're adding something to you. You can use tapping to add to, you can do body code. I think they have it to where you can add stuff. So many releasing techniques they do as adding as well, but I like to try to separate them for terms of usage and just practicality. So the downsides to using some breakthrough or repetition processes are, it can also take a lot of time. You have to do it repetitively and it needs to be consistent for it to work. So if I stop doing my affirmations or my vision board, or I'm not doing it with enough intention, or I just do my one-time breakthrough and it's so much intention and so much passion in one moment, I've got to do it again for the next thing. And it can get kind of tiring and exhausting, honestly. Like to redo over and over and over, you're expending a lot of energy, a lot of focus to try to change something. Better than nothing at all. Like I would much rather people do removal and repetition techniques than not doing anything. Because the whole point is what? Process with purpose. So if you have a goal and you're resisting some of the steps, or it's taking a long time and you're procrastinating, you obviously have something that needs changed. So if you truly want to change that, you've got to do something to change it. So it's better to do a lot of repetition and passion and try to remove stuff than not doing anything. Cool. Downside, it takes a long time. It can work for certain areas, and certain areas it might not work, right? Because if you don't do enough repetition or passion, you might miss it. Okay. So then you feel let down, then it can be easy to quit. That is not cool and not what we want to do. We want to go get results fast. So those are the two processes. The last and final thing that I want to talk about is reprogramming, reframing, or frequency-based techniques. These are techniques that use frequencies, which all of them have different frequencies, but this is specifically using the power of frequency to change or reprogram how you show up so that you can have new things come into your life. There's a couple different ways that you can look at these. Everything has a frequency, words, colors, vibrations, everything has a vibration, everything is a frequency, everything's energy. So if I'm wanting to go get a goal, some of the things that you can do is like light therapy. Light therapy is a frequency-based type therapy that if you put certain lights in certain spots on you, it will help you change how you think, how you feel, and create more abundance in your life through light. You can do sound. Every sound has a different frequency. Some sounds resonate at like prosperity, and some for health, and some for wealth. And you can inundate your body with certain vibrations, sounds, to help change so that you can move forward and get a result. So those are some that use some outer thing to do it. Also like Rife units, different types of biofeedback machines, those tend to take where you're at and put in a certain frequency of sound and light and vibration to change how your body responds and reacts. All of them are super amazing. If you haven't done any research in frequency-based stuff, it's amazing. Like Dr. Rife back in the 30s and 20s created so much momentum with frequency-based therapies and change. So many people use it in the health realm, but you can also use it for attracting your ideal love in your life, to getting out of depression, to being able to make more money, and any type of thing. They all have a different frequency. So aligning or tuning into that frequency will change how you think. You have tuning forks. So many cool processes on frequency-based alignment. Okay. So some other things is your reprogramming. Hypnosis is a reprogramming type process. Now with hypnosis, you can do a lot of different things with it. You can go in and it's a guided meditations where you're put into a different state and then given new programs. So if your program in the past, you learned that, hey, I'm not capable of going and doing this XYZ thing. Like I can't go and create a massive following. I'm going to be struggling. It's going to be too hard. If that was from my past pain, you can use hypnosis to go in and reprogram it to say, hey, you're actually confident. You're actually on top of things. You can do anything you want. And those beliefs get changed through a new program. So they're literally going in and like reprogramming your brain to create a different result. Effective? Sure, it can be. I'll tell you some of the reasons why it might not be as effective. But that's another reprogramming technique. So you have hypnosis is and can be something that could work for you. The other reprogramming ones, you can have like laying on beds and lights and frequencies, holding probes. All those are same frequency-based things. Also drinking certain types of water where frequencies are instilled. That is a frequency-based technique. Now, another technique that is cool is called dowsing. And this one is also a frequency-based technique. And it's basically using your brain, using your intention to measure when things are changed and not, and to change them using your intention. This is a frequency-based technique. So if I was going to change something, and I've done this to improve my gas mileage, I've done this to fix my car, I've literally done this to get rid of pancreatic pain, I've gotten rid of allergies to dogs in like 4 minutes. So all these techniques I've used, and they all have worked. Some more effective on different people than others. So with the frequency-based technique, you intend that something is going to change, and you imagine it, you really tap into that deeper level of consciousness, which this is a downside to frequency techniques, is you do have to be in a different state to do it. And if you're so reactive, so negative, it's harder to tap into that because you have so much fight, flight responses going on. So you can't really use it unless someone else does it to you. But then if you're fighting it, you're not going to see the result as much. So that's one of the downsides of frequency stuff. So you scramble that negative thing. It'll go counterclockwise. You intend it to do so. And then it'll go clockwise when you intend it to do so. So it's all intention. It has nothing to do with this. This isn't weird. And I didn't like, it's just a chain and a rock. So that's it. There's nothing weird about it other than I'm using my intention to change stuff. So energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but it can be transferred. So I'm using my mind to break down certain things and then to transform it. So it can be used as both an elimination and an adding technique. Okay. But it's all based on frequencies and energy. So that can be used really well as well. Now, the downside to frequency techniques, like I just said, is if you're not in tune, unless you're using some sort of outer thing like a machine, if you have to do it yourself, the downside is you do have to be in a deeper state of thinking. So if you're reactive all the time, it's not going to work as good. If you don't believe it'll work, it's not going to work as good. So that one is really dependent upon your ability to choose and how well you respond to your beliefs. Okay. And it's kind of like, never mind, I won't go there. But anyway, so that's one of the downsides. The cool side is it's fast. It can be super quick. Doesn't have to take years to do it. It can be literally minutes and it's done. Problem is also that it only works on some people and it's a little difficult to duplicate for some, especially if they have so much stuff that they're resisting. So I like to use frequency-based techniques. It's great because we're all the time in a state of receiving. Like every time we watch a movie, that's a frequency coming in to change how we think and feel. Every time we do things and eat things, those are all frequencies that we're putting into our bodies and minds. So those are all techniques you can use to break through. So it's super fast. It can be very efficient. Sometimes it doesn't stick because it is a frequency and it can come and go dependent on your outer circumstances. For those that it sticks, it's because they believed it would and they've worked on that frequency enough. For those that don't, it's because they didn't believe it would because they had so much past stuff. And sometimes the frequencies aren't enough to give them evidence that it will change. So it's harder to convince them, okay? To convince their mind and body that they can change. Make sense so far? Okay, so recap so far. We've got removal techniques, adding techniques, frequency-based techniques, or breakthrough techniques and frequency-based techniques. So those are the main things. Now, the last thing I want to share is a hybrid of a lot of these. And there's a lot more techniques. These are just an overview. Hopefully that you can take a technique out there and put it in here. I didn't have time to go over all 400 and something that I've done, but this will give you some ideas of how to think differently about it. Now, my ultimate favorite, I do love dowsing because it's a fun, fast, simple way. I use tapping rarely now, but the one that I use the most is actually called the abundance alignment technique. And I'm a little biased because I'm the founder of it and I created it, but I found that I was getting tired of taking too long, doing repetition and passion, trying to put in so much with the frequency. And I like the frequency stuff. It was cool, but it wasn't working or sticking on certain people. So I wanted something that was so thorough, so complete. And it all went down to two things: allergies or addictions. So this came down to, yes, it's an alignment process. So it's a frequency-based technique and it can help remove, but it can also help add all at the same time. So what it does is it pinpoints this process, helps you find where your fight flight responses originate from. So in the past, I used to think, oh, well, they're stored in certain organs. So like your liver holds on to anger, your heart holds on to sorrow, like all these things I thought was like, here's where it is. But then I thought, what if maybe that's true for the majority, but couldn't you have fear anywhere in your body? Like, couldn't you have that insecurity anywhere? Does it have to be stored in certain organs just because those are predisposed to that certain emotion? And I thought that we were limiting ourselves to the potential of transformation. So instead of pinpointing based on past people of here's where it's stored, why not just ask your body, where is it stored? Like, who cares? Let's just figure out where it is. It could be anywhere, and then acknowledge it and then align it using an alignment process, which you breathe into the nose, out to the mouth, into the nose, out to the mouth, into the nose, out to the mouth, and pant and smile. And doing that, what happens is everything that we have, I just simplified it all down to my philosophy is that the only reason we're struggling with something is due to an allergy or an addiction, most likely both. So our bodies are in a constant fight or flight response. And usually it's both because to every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. To every fight, there is a flight. To every flight, there is a fight. So to every addiction, there is an allergy. To every allergy, there is an addiction. And those things can keep us bound from creating what we want in life. So if I want to go achieve a goal and I've been stuck somewhere, the only reason would be due to an allergy or an addiction, which, based on the whole philosophy, is some part of our past has created some sort of decision that is keeping us stuck, and it's very difficult to move forward through. Change it, and you change the result, right? So there's even like breakthrough belief processes that you just ask questions and get down to the core, and then you have them make a new decision. Those are all great. Those are really reframing techniques. Now, the abundance alignment technique, why I like it so much, because it's super thorough and it doesn't matter where it is. It just matters that you get to it and change it. And when you do that, instead of having to fight flight all the time, you can then make it a goal and go get that goal regardless of your past. You don't have to figure out root causes. You don't have to do a ton of repetition and passion. You just need to change the frequency or pattern that is happening. And the problem with a lot of the hypnosis stuff is that if I reprogram my brain to just be confident without addressing some of the fears that might be beyond the subconscious, I'm actually going to cause myself to be in more of a panic mode. I'll just feel off. So you got to be careful. If you just go in and you're not consciously reprogramming yourself, then you could unconsciously put a program that counters other programs. But then if you have other programs that counter that, it's going to feel off. If your body's still afraid of the goal and you are now programmed in your mind, I'm not afraid, but your body is, it's going to feel like this constant battle. So it can be very difficult to move forward. And that's why it doesn't stick many times, or you have to repeat and keep doing hypnosis over and over and over until you hopefully have aligned and hypnotized your whole body. But instead of having to just convince yourself, what if you could take what you want and that thing, make sure every part of your body is 100% in and aligned with that frequency. All the garbage, all the goods, everything just aligned to that thing. That's the difference. And that's why I think the abundance alignment technique works so well, is because it's not focused on removal. It's not focused on repetition and passion. It's not even focused on reframing or convincing, or even just on frequency. It is focused on constant choices, micro choices, to help your body choose to not be in a state of flight or flight, but to be at peace so that it can now move forward in a matter of minutes, hours, or days instead of years trying to do all the different processes. So that's my overview of all the different processes out there. They sum up into the three main categories there, which is the removal techniques, the addition techniques, or the frequency-based techniques, which the winner of them all, I believe, is the abundance alignment technique, as it's the most simple. You can do it through, if you do know how to muscle test, you can get really specific. If you don't, you can do the intuitive version where you just feel it and then align. and it changes how your body responds to the thing you want. And that's the one I've just seen the most results myself with other people. And I stopped doing a lot of the other processes just because it's like, hey, why would I be tied to the processes if I found one that works more effective? So for you, if you would like to learn more about like, is this technique worth it to you? Will it work for you? You can do two things. Number one, you could join our 10-day challenge. It's called Find Your Unstoppable 10-day challenge. There's a link in the description. It'll show you how to get access to a 10-day challenge to where if you've got something you've been working on and you're unsure of what process to use, over the 10 days, we help you gain clarity. We help you learn what skills you're avoiding and then get out of the resistance using various techniques. And I incorporate a lot of the abundance alignment technique, the short condensing version of it, to where you can pinpoint what you want and go get it in a matter of days instead of months or years. So if you haven't, and if you'd like to look into that, there's a link down below. Also, be sure and like and subscribe this if this is helpful to you. Hopefully going over this, and if you have other techniques or processes you want me to do a review on, just drop one in the comments section and I'll do my best to either go experience it if I haven't done it. I've done NLP and all sorts of other things as well. But those are reframing kind of similar processes. So if you have one that you're unsure about, drop in the comments, like, subscribe. And if you want to join the 10-day challenge, there's a link down below. That's one thing you could do. Number two, you could join my Facebook group at tylerfb.com, and you can learn some of the basics of some of the process and how it works and see if it works for you. And the third thing is if you're like, dude, I just really want some one-on-one help, then there is a link as well. You can click to access a conversation. And I've also tried to put in the links of all the other techniques where they're just breaking down individually. So I have one specifically on vision boards, one specifically on the abundance alignment technique, one specifically on body code, and one specifically on dowsing. So those links should be posted down below in the comments as well. My goal here today is to really make sure that you can understand the point of working on yourself. Someone once said to me that if I worked harder on myself than I ever did on my business would thrive. And they were right. I decided that if that was true, I'm going to spend more on myself, on my personal development, on how I think, how I feel, how I change, so that in my marriage, in my business, with my kids, that I can show up fully present for them and truly be the leader that I want to be without fighting and flighting all the time, without the procrastination, without taking forever to attain my goals. So if you are in that state where you're like, I don't know what to do, hopefully you can look down in the description. We've got links for many things. One is to join the 10-day challenge. Super great starting point. One is to join the Facebook group. Awesome thing to do if you just want to kind of do something for free. If you want to get your feet wet, do the challenge, because that'll more than get your feet wet. It'll transform your life in less than 10 days. And then if you want to just check out other videos here, you can look in the description, go through some of the different videos where I compare different techniques. And then also, if you just like, hey, let's figure this out. What do you need specific to your situation? You can book a call down below as well. And that will take you to an alignment consultation. And in that consultation, we can figure out where you're at and pinpoint what you need to use and where you need to go to get the fastest results possible. Okay, so you got lots of choices. I want to give you multiple things to choose from. I know most of us are like, hey, one thing, just one thing, that's all I need. But here, I want you to choose based on where you feel you're at, what you need. Whether it's go check out more videos, like, subscribe if you want to do that. If you want to join the Facebook group, get started for free, tylerfb.com. If you want to experience the 10-day challenge and get your feet wet, that will be the spot. If you're like, dude, I've been around the block a while and I just need some personalized help, then book a consultation. The choice is yours. Thank you so much. Drop a comment and let me know how this helped you and what other videos you'd like to see so that I can serve you the best. We'll see you on the other side. Tyler Watson here, and have an awesome day.